One famous example of weaponizing biology is the Soviet Union, which has developed bioweapons for more than 6 decades, and, at least according to the United States assessment, Russia is continuing to develop bioweapons to this day. At times, it had about 15,000 employees working on developing bioweapons against humans, and another 10,000 developing weapons against crops and agriculture. They produced tens to hundreds of millions of tons of anthrax, plague, Ebola, and smallpox annually. They also genetically engineered these pathogens to be more lethal and resistant to antibiotics and antivirals. The United States itself has developed bioweapons in the past, and, for example, built this 1 million liter steel ball to test the effectiveness of different bioweapons. But bioweapons are not exclusively the purview of nation-states. Often nicknamed the poor man's atomic bomb alongside chemical weapons, biological weapons have been pursued by terrorist groups as well. The fact that pathogens are self-replicating means that even a small quantity could wreak enormous havoc, and so even someone with limited resources and reach could, at least theoretically, harm vast amounts of people. Among the most concerning historical examples was Om Shinrikyo, a cult that began as a yoga studio in the 1980s, but by the 1990s came to believe it was their role to bring about the apocalypse. They received global attention when their 1995 chemical attack on the Tokyo subway system killed 13 people and sent many more to the hospital. But arguably, even more frightening than their chemical attack was their development of bioweapons. The cult's bioweapons program had an annual budget of millions of dollars, cultivating botulinum toxin, and later anthrax, in hundreds of metric tons of medium, which they loaded on multiple trucks and sprayed at target locations. Luckily, their biological product failed to achieve the intended effect due to various operational errors, and their biological attacks were unsuccessful. But producing such pathogens is becoming easier and fast. In 2018, a PhD student managed to recreate the extinct horsepox virus with $100,000 and mail-order DNA. This virus is closely related to the incredibly dangerous smallpox virus, and experts agree he could have just as easily done this with smallpox. The process for how to do so was published openly in scientific journals. A WHO report noted that the recreation of such viral genomes did not require exceptional biochemical knowledge or skills, significant funds, or significant time. In addition to ordering DNA from biosynthesis companies, like in the horsepox example, in the future malicious actors could buy and use benchtop DNA synthesizers, small benchtop devices that can independently create DNA and are becoming increasingly more capable. How big is the risk from such an attack? Well, it's harder to estimate the probability of such an attack since it depends on many more tricky human complexities than natural pandemics and even lab accidents. But various organizations have estimated the severity of such an attack, including the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and NTI, the Nuclear Threat Initiative. Johns Hopkins explicitly modeled their estimate on what would happen if a group with similar resources and intentions to Om Shinrikyo had access to today's technology, and specifically if they used a, quote, moderately contagious and moderately lethal para-influenza virus. Both organizations estimated such an attempt today would be much more likely to succeed and would likely kill hundreds of millions of people. These justifications for the importance of pandemic preparedness and response as a cause area point to potentially far higher risks than the ones driven by natural pandemics. But of course, we're less confident in them because they're unprecedented. Come to think about it, how can we ever be convinced that something unprecedented is more or less likely to happen if the historical record can't back it up? Let's take a step back and understand how to think about these kinds of estimates when we don't have as much evidence as we'd like.
Bye.